right. So with the most recent update coming out in the 1.6 update, we are going to be getting a free limited star character, that being Dr.Ratio. And obviously, because of this, is because Honkai StarRail won a bunch of mobile game awards. So thank you, Hoyovers, for giving us a Giga Chad of a unit. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be more focused on Ruan Mei because, quite frankly, her kit is also very, very strong. However, with the release of the 1.6 update, everyone who logs in will be getting Dr.Ratio for free. So I also do feel that his build is probably more paramount than Ruan Mei because is a character we're all going to be getting. So let's first discuss his abilities. So his basic skill and his basic attack, or his skill and basic attack, are both just going to be doing imaginary damage to a single target. You know, with Dr.Ratio obviously being a hunt imaginary unit. His ultimate is where things really start to kick into gear and we really start to see where Dr.Ratio begins to flourish. He is obviously going to be dealing imaginary damage to a single target, but he's going to be applying what is going to be known as Wise Man's Folly. Now, when Dr.Ratio's allies attack the target that has the Wise Man Folly on it, he is going to follow up with his talent for one time against the target. And Wise Man's Folly can be triggered up to 2 times. It can only affect the most recent target of Dr.Ratio's ultimate. And so, okay, so what does his talent do? So when using his skill, Dr.Ratio has a 40% fixed chance to launch a follow-up attack against one target, one time, dealing imaginary damage 270% of his attack, which is ridiculous. For each debuff the target enemy has, the fixed chance of following up attack increases by 20%. If the target enemy is defeated before the follow-up attack triggers, the follow-up attack will be directed at the single nearest enemy. So, as we can see here, it's, when using his skill. But as we know, the ultimate is going to allow his talent to be triggered, allowing him to do the follow-up attack. However, his talent being thrown in there along with his skill. Now, I know normally, for his skill, you would want your DPS character to be doing stupid amounts of damage while doing other stuff, a la Jing Liu and Blade. However, Dr.Ratio is a follow-up damage dealing machine. So we'll get into the team comps, but let's go ahead and continue going over his other abilities. So his technique is, once he uses it, he's going to create a special dimension that taunts nearby enemies lasting for 10 seconds. After entering battle with enemies in the special dimension, there is a 100% base chance to reduce their speed by 15% for 2 turns. Now, so how this technique is going to work is he's going to call down like a Roman sculpture of himself. And it's going to be a circular perimeter around that statue, and any enemies within that special dimension obviously is going to be affected by the technique. His traces. So deduction is when dealing damage to a target that has 3 or more debuffs. For each debuff the target has, the damage dealt by Dr.Ratio to the target is going to increase by 10%, capping out 50%. His summation is when he uses his skill, for every debuff on the target, his crit rate increases by 2.5 and crit damage increases by 5%, both of them capping out at 6 times. Now, inference is when skill is used to attack an enemy target, there is a 100% base chance to reduce the attacked target's effective resistance by 10% for 2 turns. As you can see, his kit is very, very, very strong. He does primarily focus around the follow-up attack. And while, yes, you can make an argument that that's not that great, it's just very, very strong. Now is the real kicker, because how exactly do you want to be building Dr.Ratio? And it's a little not that complicated, honestly. because he just does a lot. Um, so let's go ahead and check out the best light cones. Obviously, the best light cone would be his own, because it allows him to continually boost his his crit damage from 20% all the way up to 32%. And for every debuff on the enemy target, the wearer's crit damage dealt increases by 6%, stacking all the way up to 10%, up to a maximum of 3 stacks. So you could get possibly 30% additional crit damage on top of the base crit damage that the light cone is going to be giving you. And then when you use the ultimate, he is going to be receiving the disputation effect, increasing damage dealt by 36% all the way up to 60%. Their follow-up attacks, ignoring 20 to 32% of the defense. So that is very, very, very strong. Obviously, that is his best light cone. His signature is easily the best. Some other light cones would be the Worrisome Blissful, would be Topaz's light cone, because of the fact that, you know, you are dealing follow-up damage, so that would suit well. Some other free-to-play options I can't really think of off the top of my head, but I'll make sure to have like the little text blurb to pop up so that you are aware. Some of his best relic sets, you could have the Wastelander Banditry Dessert, increasing his imaginary damage, as well as, you know, allowing him to get a crit rate increase when he attacks debuffed enemies. And then when they're in prison, you're going to get a 20% crit damage boost. Some other stuff that you could use, personally, I plan on using would probably be the Ash Blazing Grand Duke, allowing a 20% increase to follow-up damage dealt. And then, obviously, if you have the 4-piece set, you know, you get the just attack increase by 6%, stacking up to 8 times, lasting for 3 turns. I think that is very, very good because he is a follow-up damage dealing monster. The ornament set I think is honestly the best is the Inert Salsodo. Increases the wearer's crit rate by 8%. And then when his crit rate reaches 50% or higher, you are going to get a ultimate and follow-up damage boost of 15%. So is Dr.Ratio bad because he's being given out for free? No. I think this is Hoyoverse thanking their player base and giving out a stupid strong unit. Now, would they be giving out Rame? I don't think so. I think actually giving out Dr.Ratio is very, very good. He is a very good DPS unit. If you are missing a good imaginary DPS unit, you could be using him. So, yeah, he's honestly a top tier unit.